It's the Big 550 KTRS. I am Paul Harris, filling in for McGraw. Kelly Jackson is here with me. Thanks for following us on Twitter at 550 KTRS. And you can follow me or tweet to me at Paul Harris Show. Jon Stewart is going to walk away from The Daily Show after 16 plus years tomorrow night. It is very easy to say that this is a man who changed television comedy, especially when you consider how he was doing when the show first started and how things, I think, changed. Maybe even not by the time 9/11 came around. I think you could make an argument that the 2000 election changed him and changed the focus of the show. Let's see what Lisa Rojak has to say about this. She's written a biography of Jon Stewart that's out now called The Angry Optimist. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Would you agree with me that that election was a real turning point in the evolution of Jon Stewart as the host of The Daily Show?
Yes, it was, because he first went on the air in '99. He was taking over from Craig Kilborn, who had run the show like a frat boy, basically. That was the tone of The Daily Show pre-Jon Stewart.
Yep.
And Stewart came on in '99 and kind of took a little while to get into it, but he finally made it his own and turned the tone of the show and the skits and the segments that they ran from just comic to political once the 2000 primary season began.
And I think that was the tone that he carried through, right through this final week that he's in now. Now, your biography is not just about his years on The Daily Show, but about his entire life. So let me just throw this at you. Tell me something about Jon Stewart I don't know.
He had a lot of lousy jobs as a kid, and that helped shape his. And he also had a failed talk show. Well, it wasn't really failed, but his early MTV show.
Yeah.
He was only spent 2 years on that, and so when that went under, then he just kind of, having all these crappy jobs when he was younger made him kind of, accepting of it and just what came next. And he actually played some bit roles, some cameos in a few years before he went on The Daily Show, and in unforgettable, really roundly panned movies with Danny DeVito and what was the name of the E.T. little girl?
Drew Barrymore.
Yes, her. Yes, I'm sorry. So he's kind of done, before he even arrived at the anchor desk at The Daily Show, he had done a lot of different things, and not all of them had worked out. In fact, very few had worked out, so that, he thought he was going to get to the desk of The Daily Show, and if it lasted a year or two, that would be great, and then he'd go on and figure out what came next. And nobody expected, he didn't expect that the level, there was no way to predict where the level and the degree of success that he, and the level of influence also that he has had in the 16 years since he started.
I remember the MTV show that he had, which was pretty good. It was absolutely geared towards the MTV audience and the MTV demographic, and he was very casual about hosting it. And those days, he wasn't the broadcaster he was to become later. He was really a stand-up comedian who was hosting a show. But I know that at a certain point, Paramount came to him because Arsenio Hall's syndicated show was coming to an end, and so they said, well, let's syndicate your MTV show. And that actually doomed him, because it was perfect for MTV, but it wasn't good for broadcast channels across the country to air at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, or wherever they may have aired, depending on what city they were in. And that was bad for him, and that's what led to that demise. But if that hadn't happened, maybe he wouldn't have gotten to The Daily Show.
Exactly. I mean, and he was so ill-suited for syndication that what happened is a lot of the smaller local networks ended up showing airing his show at 3 and 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Tell us about the angry side, though. That's the title of your book, The Angry Side of Jon Stewart.
Well, it's clear to me. All you have to do is watch him deliver a monologue and see that he's holding back his rage. I mean, I think that he started his main impetus from the beginning of the Daily Show, once he started to get some traction with building viewership, was that he thought that he would be able to change the way things are, in particular in politics and the media. And of course, fast forward 15, 16 years, and both politics and the media have gotten a lot more fragmented, a lot more, pointing fingers at the other guy. And, I think that he thought that if he just pointed these things out with humor, colored with humor on his show, that his audience would, rah-rah, cheer him, and then go out and do something about it. And it's, like I said, it's just gotten worse. And I think that has been part of the reason why he decided to step down at this point, because, he couldn't have foreseen the current environment and the atmosphere of the presidential campaign with the 17 clown cars, 17 clowns in the car. But I think he just didn't want to go through it again. And he's been getting tired over the years. You can definitely see it in the types of monologues that he's had, and how many times can you attack Fox News, really? And he just was tired.
Tell me about the internal workings of the show. How much of what we get from the other people on the air, the correspondents, and there have been some very now famous people who have gone through that show and been made stars by their presence on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. How much of what we see from them is because of him?
Well, he's at the top of the hierarchy, and he obviously sets the tone, and he is still going to be executive producer of The Daily Show once he steps down.
Oh, really?
And he was also executive producer of The Colbert Report.
Yep.
So he kind of helped set the tone. Everything, again, like any corporate hierarchy, followed from the guy at the top of the heap. And so I think everybody took I included a couple of stories in the book about how people who didn't follow his lead, they didn't last very long on the show. Mm-hmm. And they would try out different correspondents, and if they were not able to immediately hit the ground running from the first day that they were in the studio, then, they wouldn't call them back anymore.
Well, that's as you would expect in any broadcast enterprise. I know from doing my own shows for a long, long time, if you have somebody who is part of the team and they just don't want to be a part of the team that you're running in the way that you're running it,
exactly,
they're going to go, especially if you're the star and, as you say, the executive producer. The book is called The Angry Optimist. It's a biography of Jon Stewart from the early parts of his life right up through his years at The Daily Show, which will come to an end tomorrow night. Before I let you go, Lisa, predict for me what he will do in the next few years.
I think he's going to take a long break. I think he is going to want to stay behind the scenes instead of in front of the camera. I don't think he'll ever do another talk show again. And I see him directing more movies, popping up, doing more stand-up. He never stopped doing stand-up, of course, through the years. But the reaction and the acceptance of his first directed movie, Rosewater, was so good that I think that that's a clear path for him. But he can do whatever he wants, and then they'll get out the checkbook and say, okay, what do you want? So
Lisa Rojak, the author of the Jon Stewart biography, Angry Optimist. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
8:47 at the Big 550 KTRS.
No